Will Northwest businessman Suliman Carrim be subjected to an independent medical examination? And IDAC Head Advocate Andrea Johnson's contradictions, concessions and withdrawals raised questions about the alleged true motivation behind the fraud and corruption case against Lt General Dumisani Khumalo, Brigadier Dineo Mokwele and others from a referral that said absolutely nothing. I'm Canny Maphanga, and let's continue to connect the dots on this Madlanga Wrap.
If you were not fearful of the minister, why then? You still went ahead regardless and gave the instruction that you gave to Mr. Perumal. What motivated you?
Is to follow up on, is there a Section 27?
Why is Mr. Adams's affidavit not confined specifically to the complaint he had laid? It can only be at the instigation of IDACs.
Now that the matter is before the NPA on the basis set out above for a decision on whether I should or not be prosecuted, various consequences emerge. Mr. Adams is a member of the Police Portfolio Committee. These allegations come to them from time to time. There's active engagement with the police. There are documents that are shared, there's information that is shared. I did not take his to be just the test.
Law 101 says subjective, you look to the person's mind. Objective, you test that in accordance with how a reasonable person would view the situation. You cannot say it's subjective, but then also refer to a reasonable person test. You cannot.
All right, let's begin here. Northwest businessman Suliman Carrim launched yet another postponement bid before the probe, citing persisting health challenges. The application was opposed by the evidence leaders with conditions.
The heart of our opposition as the evidence leaders is that the Commission should not grant a postponement without requiring an independent medical examination. That is the heart of the opposition by the evidence leaders to a postponement. And the reason for that is because we've had a history of postponements where
A ruling on this bid is expected soon. Now, IDAC Head Advocate Andrea Johnson took to the stand to answer to allegations of alleged improper conduct in her past and currently before IDAC under her watch. But on the former, which alleges that Johnson furnished Major General Faraz Khan with the contents of a criminal complaint against him in a manner that raised red flags, Johnson invoked her right against self-incrimination.
Now that the matter is before the NPA on the basis set out above for a decision on whether I should or not be prosecuted, various consequences emerge. One of those consequences of the need for me to have my rights protected.
Now, this did not stop the probe from pursuing the facts surrounding IDAC's cases on crime intelligence. The Commission returned back to Johnson's testimony before the ad hoc committee that contradicts her latest version on the Section 27 referral. Turns out, the referral came from the office of the Police Minister, Mkhunu, not Fadil Adams.
The impression you are creating here is that it is Adams who came to IDAC and this thing landed on IDAC's desk, when in fact yesterday we agreed that based on the minister's letter, or rather the letter from the minister's office, it is IDAC that reached out to Mr. Adams. So which is which now? Because here it's Mr. Adams who's coming to IDAC, but yesterday you were quite clear that it's the minister who came to IDAC. The letter from the minister was not helpful. You then instructed Perumal to reach out to Adams, and that's how the Section 27 affidavit came about.
That is the correct position, Commissioner Khumalo.
Now, this detail is important because it leads the Commission to evidence which suggests that IDAC used a letter that said nothing in order to allegedly launch a parallel investigation that would mount a case against Lt General Dumisani Khumalo, Brigadier Dineo Mokwele, and others. Find out how after the break. Thank you for staying with us. It has been established before the probe that Adams' affidavit did not meet the requirements of a Section 27 referral. A further look into the evidence suggests that to cure this defect, the investigators hid under a preliminary investigation to allegedly conduct what became a full-blown investigation under Section 28, subsection 13, prior to the probe being formally authorized.
It appears to me, and perhaps I'm looking at it wrong, that IDAC used the mechanics of Section 2813 to conduct a full-blown investigation, which would render it wholly unauthorized, and then to post facto grant the authorization on the 30th of May, which opened the way for applying for arrest warrants and actually arresting them. So no investigation was conducted after the 30th of May.
In addition, the so-called irregular appointment of Brigadier Dineo Mokwele that IDAC relied on to pursue this case fell apart before the probe. This as evidence showed that her appointment was not irregular, and in fact, Mokwele met all the requirements of the post and more.
I would have to go further than to withdraw. I would have to apologize that that statement was made.
Because it's one thing to say an appointment is irregular.
Yes.
It's quite another to say it's a token appointment.
Yes. I base it on what I was given, but I accept, having gone through this file, that the word unsuitable is unsuitable.
Yes.
Now, these latest developments raise the question, since Mokwele exceeded expectations, what is this fraud and corruption case truly about? Is it allegedly about the control of the Secret Service account? While the Commission warms up on that question, lawyers on behalf of Brigadier Dineo Mokwele have filed a complaint against IDAC Head Advocate Johnson to the IDAC Ombudsman. This after Johnson's appearance before the Madlanga Commission produced several concessions and withdrawals in relation to the fraud and corruption case against Lt General Dumisani Khumalo, Mokwele, and others. The complaint pertains to significant allegations of misconduct, misuse of authority, failure to exercise powers in good faith, and behavior inconsistent with the constitutional obligations expected of all members of the NPA, especially the head of IDAC. Now, this is not the only complaint filed against Advocate Johnson. Public Interest SA filed a complaint of their own to the IDAC Oversight Judge and also turned to the Legal Practice Council to challenge Johnson's fitness to continue practicing as a legal practitioner. Founder Tebogo Kas is standing by to unpack this with us after the break. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. As promised, we continue the conversation surrounding IDAC with Public Interest SA founder Tebogo Kas. Tebogo, thank you so much for joining us yet again and Continue the Dots. A lot has unfolded this week that raises serious credibility questions surrounding the cases that IDAC is currently probing within crime intelligence. One theme emerged from both Johnson and Padiachi's testimony when they gave their evidence, and it is this belief that there were allegedly going to be an abuse of the Secret Service account. And one wonders, is this what this case is truly about?
Well, Kenny, I think you've really articulated so well, summed it up so well. A lot has happened this week and the previous week when Padiachi appeared. Colonel Padiachi appeared before the commission, and this week itself was just even more sadder, if I may use that word, in the sense that we had the head of the ultimate corruption-busting arm of the state being found out wanting, ineptitude, and bordering on the criminal, if not criminal, conduct herself. In circumstances where even the judges had to, lament the fact that she was not being so truthful or in fact showing lack of appreciation of the law, the rudimentary aspects of fundamental tenets of law, where she did not apply herself before she authorized investigations or before she went on to get others to actually go and conduct the investigations which led to the arrest of Brigadier Dineo Mokwele and others. In circumstances that raises more questions than answers, because we do know that there are internal squabbles within SABS as well as IDAC. And this couldn't put it much more clearer to the public as to what is really happening. And this is a sad state of affairs. We shouldn't really be subjecting ourselves or individuals to unfair treatment or prosecution that are borderly relying on advancing self-interest, which is an abuse, a egregious abuse of power by Advocate Johnson.
And it seems that Mokwele just got caught up in the battle allegedly for the Secret Service account, all those internal battles within crime intelligence. And yet again, a key feature of trying to understand this battle is also looking at her past conduct in relation to Major General Feroz Khan, because he shows up in the complaint as someone who should have been put on the panel, which suggests that they needed to have some kind of alleged control over who this person is that needed to come into this particular role. And then if you go back to the past, you then see this individual allegedly being shielded by Advocate Andrea Johnson. The two seem to have a bit of a connection there. However, it's yet to be tested before the Madlanga Commission.
Not a bit of connection, Kenny, if I may add. We do know for a fact now that Andrea Johnson's son also works for Feroz Khan in his businesses. So the connection is not casual. And also they have, she has also admitted to having attended at least one of the 50th parties that we know of, at least so far, of Andrea Johnson. In circumstances, she also tried to create some distance between her and Feroz Khan. And certainly we could see some desperation of sort to try and find something to get onto Lt General Khumalo. And I think this was one of those instances where, out of desperation and in haste, they didn't tick the boxes and make sure that the right dots are, the right T's are crossed and the dots are, the I's are dotted. And in circumstances that exposes them that they actually rushed, that in procedurally it was flawed prosecution, and they were contradicting the provisions of the Section 27 referral on which the investigation and charge were reliant on, where in one instance, as you rightly put it earlier, she had said that they had received a letter from the minister, and then no, it was from Fidel Adams, and even Fidel Adams, he was sent it directly. Now we got it through the system. It really didn't much add up. You could see that they were just out to try and find something on General Khumalo. And again, we do remember Kenny Maphanga when he said, when out of his testimony, you could tell that all they wanted was to ensure that they felt wrong that what's his name, Feroz Khan was not on the panel which appointed Brigadier Mokwele, which prompts the question: who do they have in mind to assume that role that Mokwele had? Especially given the fact that Feroz Khan himself, in the past, he was in a panel or panels that failed to even recommend any of the people that reapplied from within SABS. And now they come back and say one of the individuals from SABS was more qualified. It's a bizarre set of circumstances that we see unfolding right in front of our eyes. And it cannot do well for the fact that we've got a young professional upcoming in the criminal intelligence sector who has got ambitions, who left her own job in the private sector, which over time would have been much more rewarding than serving the nation as she now opted to. Now being persecuted or finding herself in a wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. And this is something that cannot be countenanced, even by the NDPP himself, who's now seized with the matter of been requested to drop the charges.
Now, Advocate Johnson is set to return tomorrow from 9:30 a.m. to continue with the evidence, but there are limitations to the test of the alleged proximity to Major General Feroz Khan because she, at the outset, has already invoked her right against self-incrimination with witness O's allegations, which is really at the heart of the test of the alleged relationship between herself and Major General Feroz Khan, because there are a lot of questions surrounding the manner in which she chose to furnish that information to Major General Feroz Khan. If the Commission doesn't get those answers this week because she is currently dealing with a matter that is before the NPA for a decision, then how then do we round up, or rather the Commission rounds up this evidence that seems to place this individual, Major General Feroz Khan, in both instances, that is in the instance from the past and things that are taking place under IDAC, under her watch? How then do you reconcile the two when there is this right against self-incrimination and she's preserving her constitutional rights in light of the matter that this matter could actually be prosecuted in the future?
Yeah, I don't think she really thought this through, because to have a senior officer, a head of an institution like IDAC, pleading the fifth, I mean, the right to not self-incriminate, I can hear you.
Yes, you can go on.
Oh, okay. It is very concerning to find a head of an anti-crime unit such as IDAC pleading the right not to self-incriminate herself in circumstances where a tribunal has been set up to try and find the issues, the problems afflicting the criminal justice system, and in which could actually be having information that could help the Commission make recommendations that will help shape or improve the criminal justice system. Pleading the fifth, or forgive me if I keep on saying pleading the fifth, but pleading right to not self-incriminate on its own shows that there is something that Andrea Johnson is hiding, and she doesn't want to be forthcoming lest she get caught out in her lies or having been complicit in what she's being accused of. What is even much more concerning for us is the fact that it involves a victim, somebody who laid a complaint against Khan, who put her trust and faith in the system and registers a complaint. It could have been a whistleblower. It could have been any witness. But here you've got one of their own colleagues, where trust is also important, registering that complaint only for that information to be allegedly shared with Feroz Khan. And Advocate Johnson says, I won't tell you what happened because lest I'm charged, as we think she should be charged criminally for defeating the ends of justice, insofar as the fact that she let the subject of a criminal investigation know what was in the file. And it was not only Feroz Khan, even the former national NDPP advocate Shamila Batoyi was also let in with information that she ought not have been had sight of. And you ask yourself, is this somebody that is fit and proper to hold the office of director of IDAC? The answer is
I'm going to pause you at that particular question as we have run out of time. Apologies for that. We'll find out on Monday at 9:30 a.m. if she'll be able to draw the Commission into those facts surrounding the alleged true motivation behind the fraud and corruption case against these crime intelligence generals. Now, a lot has unfolded this week before the probe through the lens of IDAC Head, Advocate Andrea Johnson. Let's hear your thoughts on this week's testimony.
Yeah. Go best the way we're pushing this investigation going forward. So the leaders should continue gather things. They must continue. Everything I think is going so far, doing well, and then the way they are asking their questions, it looks like they are very concerned and in investigating everything to make sure that every perpetrator is put into book. That's why,
I think it's a very interesting question, and I think the evidence leaders are asking some very important questions that we need very honest answers to before the other questions can be answered.
And what do you think of IDAC's investigation into crime intelligence?
I think that also needs to be investigated maybe a little bit more, but I think the evidence leaders are asking the important questions.
All right, well, there you have it. We'll see this week if Advocate Andrea Johnson takes the nation as well as the Commission into confidence about the true nature of the case surrounding these generals. Now, this brings us to the end of this week's wrap. IDAC Head Advocate Johnson will continue to give evidence tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. when the hearings resume, where she will continue to be probed not only on IDAC, but allegations from her past as a senior public prosecutor. Join us again next week Sunday at 4 p.m. as we continue to connect the dots.